All right, I think we're ready to get started. I'm going to hand it over to Matt, Harvest VP of Marketing, so we can kick things off with Social Revolt.
All right, thank you, Shelby. Hey, everyone, welcome to our webinar today. We're really excited to have you with us. The goal of our time today is to provide everyone here with some real-world perspective and expertise from a Harvest customer, Social Revolt, who's joining us today. Just to talk about some common challenges faced by professional services teams. So really excited to get there. Before we jump in, just a couple of housekeeping items. We'll get through our content here in probably 35 minutes or so, and then we'll leave about 10 minutes at the end for questions. So if you do have questions, please enter them in the chat, and some folks from Harvest will be passing those along. So we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. The second thing I just wanted to plug was that we've had a great response to this webinar thus far. And so we're really exploring doing some additional Q&A webinars in the future. So if you have an idea for a topic to highlight, or if you'd even like to be part of one of these webinars, please send an email to marketing@getharvest.com. That's just marketing@getharvest.com, super easy, and we will be in touch. All right, so today the topic we're going to cover is how to get your team to consistently use time tracking, which we know is a common problem many folks face. And we're really excited to have Social Revolt with us here today. They're a longtime Harvest customer who have a really great approach towards solving this problem. So really happy and grateful to have Harrison and Lacey here today. So thank you both right now for being here. And Harrison, maybe I'll throw it to you just to introduce yourself and Social Revolt.
Yes, thank you. Very important topic. We're very excited to be, talking about it because we are a longtime Harvest user. My name's Harrison Blum. I'm a founder and chief marketing officer at Social Revolt. We are a multicultural performance marketing and advertising agency for consumer brands. We are local to Dallas. However, as we've grown, we're ever more global. We have team members in North America, South America, and Europe as of this month. And also as of this month, we have gone completely remote. So I think that's a testament to our amazing team. We've gone through a lot of, hard lessons learned throughout the years where we've been full-time in office, but also hybrid. So we're all remote and loving every second of it. The solutions we provide are around, brand strategy, go-to-market activation. We manage a lot of media, both traditional and digital. We surface a lot of, data intelligence for our clients, and more than that, I mean, we're a pretty small, like, black ops unit that we kind of call ourselves seamless integrators, kind of like a get it done right sort of team, and a true extension of our clients' like marketing function. I think that's what we're known for, and retention is very important to us. So we've been building ever since 2016, and not slowing down. So fantastic to be here, and our little humble company talking about such a benefit like time tracking.
Hi, I'm Lacey Garner. I've been in marketing a little over 14 years. I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary with Social Revolt. I am our VP of Operations and Customer Success. I often say my job is keeping us on budget, on time, and efficient and effective, making sure employees are happy, clients are happy, and just really kind of that high level of, are we providing the best service we possibly can, and just really, really being the best support and partners to our clients that we can be.
That's awesome. Thank you both. And again, thank you both for being here. Really excited. Lacey, you kind of touched on it, but what is it that sort of sets Social Revolt apart? And Harrison sort of touched on some of those things, but I know, client and customer orientation is really important for you all. So tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, like I said, for me, it's customer service. It's being in constant communication too with our clients. We never want them to feel like they don't know what's going on. So we do some kind of weekly touch base with them, whether it be a phone call or a Zoom call or even an email. Just really letting them know of what's happening, where we are, and where the status of everything is. So, we feel like that really helps us with client retention. Nobody ever being like, oh, no news is bad news or no news is good news. There's never really kind of that question of like, oh, what are they over there doing? So just that constant communication, customer service. We're just really good. Like, we like setting clear expectations, and then like, let's go achieve that expectation that we hit. So setting clear goals with our clients from the very beginning, and let's go achieve that.
Harrison, anything you'd add to that?
I mean, Lacey and I are both from, in our early days, the service industry, and I feel like that's the sixth sense, because it's all about, the customer's always right. So, Jeff Bezos is famous for saying it, but be obsessed with your customer, and that's pretty true. I mean, you align every department with customer success. Sometimes that means like really investing in the quality over quantity. It means optimizing for the long haul, not always like those short little because on paper this 1 month project is bringing in a lot of money, but then the next month it's out and then you're hunting again. But like bringing the right client at the right time at the right costs, it makes things a lot easier. So really optimizing for the long haul, being obsessed with your customer, and truly leading your customers too. I mean, being transparent, being authentic. That means, on time, punctual, bring the expertise. But, because I think our team does a lot of things really, really well. I think we very knowledgeable team, very experienced team. So that, that counsel and advisorship is obviously appreciated, but the how is different. And that does lead to just wonderful retention. And I'm very proud to be serving the same client. Some clients are still with us from the day we opened our doors, which is crazy to think, but it takes time to build that partnership, and just to be real, be authentic and transparent, I think does go a long way, but also being, very dependable and organized. Lacey's fantastic at managing expectations, but also corralling stakeholders, both internal to our team, but also like a true extension of a client's marketing function also means kind of bringing everybody together, externally too. And it takes some skill.
That's great. Thank you for that. So let's shift gears into talking a little bit about time tracking, and maybe we'll just start by learning a little bit about how you all use time tracking to effectively run your business. So Harrison, can you fill us in a little bit on how that works at Social Revolt?
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, as a long time, customer of Harvest, we didn't have really much of a reference. So this is the only tool that we truly know. We've actually, explored others in terms of like total packages with other software and financial tools and stuff like that. Harvest for us was just a mechanism to track and pay contractor talent. And that was before we had any employees at all. So, truly it was just a means to, satisfy something we needed to do on a regular basis. But as we started using it more and more, we brought on more team members, we brought on full-time team members, we started, seeing trends and realized that the tool offered a lot more than what we were using it for. And sometimes that just meant like having new eyes on it and, breaking it down and building it back up. So depending on the hat you're wearing, at that point, I was doing a lot more customer success and using the tool a lot more reactively. Today, my role's a lot different, just on the leadership team. So truly, it's a crystal ball for me, just like predicting the future to some extent, because we have all this historic data now that we can kind of point to and saying, well, this is a bad idea, or this is this is too good to pass up. So for me, it's correctly scoping for incoming projects. I want to emphasize correctly, because we have great lessons learned from being severely underestimated in terms of the labor it would take to be successful, because you're always surprised, when you're reviewing that data. Truly, so much administrative time, and it's not on us. It's got to be a symptom of this team that we're working with, and that's just comes with working with an owner or a founder. So we have a rubric now that we can kind of point to, but correctly sourcing, correctly scoping projects, and forecasting for those labor needs, for staffing purposes.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, I think that there's a clear value for time tracking, but this kind of brings us to the rub that we know exists, which is, as folks who are responsible for running the agency, you really understand the value of that time tracking, but the individual contributors or team members sometimes don't see the value there, and are not using the tool consistently. So before we jump into how you're solving that problem, it might be helpful just to understand what are some of just the common objections that you all have heard towards introducing time tracking, or maybe as people are using that, either with folks at Social Revolt as you brought them on, or maybe even in your past lives, just what you've experienced there.
I think a lot of it does feel very tedious, and that's some conversations that we always have with clients, and even me personally. Like I've said, I've been doing this little over 14 years. When I started, it was on paper and your day was broken out in 15-minute increments. So it was definitely much more tedious. And even though there's like tools now, and I mean, obviously we use Harvest, it doesn't feel as tedious as it used to, but it's still something you have to go turn on, you have to turn off, you have to remember to do it, you have to remember to set it. And so it can feel very tedious, especially for new team members and people who've never done it before. The other thing is just lack of training of, like new people coming on or have never had to time track before, like it's like especially newbies out of school, or maybe they're coming from a different industry where you're not having to time track, and this idea of like billable versus non-billable is very kind of new to them. So it's just lack of training, understanding. But the biggest hurdle that we have heard within our agency is that it feels very big brotherish. People feel like you're looking over their shoulder or monitoring, or like being super nitpicky and micromanaging, which really kind of it builds resentment. It builds kind of these barriers of like, why don't you trust me? Why are you looking over my shoulder? Which is not the case at all. But that was the kind of the tipping point for me, especially coming into leadership with Social Revolt, of hearing that over and over, and how do I get over that kind of like that hurdle, because that's a pretty big one to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, that it's such an important call out, that it's a trust issue at some level for many people, and that feeling of, do you believe in what I'm providing, and do you believe I'm using my time well? So well, let's just jump into the approach that you've taken towards overcoming those barriers. And Lacey, I know this is a important topic for you, so maybe fill us in a bit on just kind of the approach at a high level.
Definitely. Like I said, for me, the biggest hurdle was overcoming that big brother feeling that, my staff was coming back to me and mentioning and saying a lot. And me just being like, that's not what we're doing it for. That's not why we're doing it. So it's like one day I finally kind of sat down and was like, what are the reasons why, and how do we use this information? And I ended up developing this internal memo that then I started sharing with the staff, and like this is what we're doing with it, and this is why we're doing it. And not a single one of them was to monitor you as a big brother. I'm really trying to make your lives and our lives and everyone's lives easier. And I don't make a whole lot of decisions without research and data behind it. I've always kind of been that very kind of analytical standpoint. So having the Harvest data, or really any time tracking data, for me is like, how can I go make an informed decision?
Yeah.
But then explaining to my staff of like, that's what we're doing with it.
Yeah. So really making a case for the why part of time tracking, as opposed to just, maybe enforcing it as just sort of a behavior that you're obliged to do as a team member.
And I would say adoption's easier too when people understand the why.
Yeah. So I think that the memo is just kind of such a great touch point here, because I've seen this and it has some really great threads of thought there. So I'd love to just sort of walk through each one of those individually, and just sort of share with the folks here just sort of the case you're making, so to speak. And I know sort of thread one is that time tracking can help keep client hours under control. Can you just like dive into that a little bit?
Well, with clients, you can go over or you can be under. So like, are you over servicing a client, or are you even under servicing a client? And the example I use a lot of times is more for like freelancers, or even contractors. It's like, if you bid something out and you say, hey, I'll do that for $200 because I think it will take me 2 hours. So now you're making $100 an hour. But what if it actually ends up taking you 4 hours, and now you're only making $50 an hour? So like now your profit has decreased because it took you longer than you thought it would. The exact same like idea is the same within an agency. So now you're affecting like your bottom line. How much are you making as a company? That sort of thing. So it's really allows us to, one, are we bidding properly, but like, are we over servicing? Are we under servicing our clients? And the under servicing is just as important as the over servicing.
Yeah. And sort of the underpinnings of that is like, if you're not tracking your time, how would you even know
Right.
how that profitability works, how well you're serving your client, that sort of thing.
And I mean, too, it's like maybe a client's, it's like Harrison had mentioned earlier, a lot of admin work, or maybe it's extra admin work. And you're like, whoa, our hours are way, like maybe you haven't gone over yet, but you can see that they're trending that way. So even being able to like watch that trend so that you can have those early conversations with the client and say, hey, like we've got to come up with a more effective or efficient way to kind of manage this, because this is getting a little out of hand.
And Lacey, do you ever, if you do have to have those tough conversations with the client, do you ever sort of pull the data from Harvest and share it with them, or do you just so you have sort of the data-driven discussion there?
Yes. Oh no, we have exported it before, and I'm like, here you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so that's sort of the first one. The next one is just managing resource utilization.
Again, it's the over under. So are we overutilizing our employees? Because nobody wants to be working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. That's just not how our company is set up. We really do want a good work-life balance. I know a lot of companies say that, but we actually try and practice it and preach it. So like, are we overutilizing people? But also for me personally, and even, a lot of people that we have employed, being bored too is not good either. So like, if you just don't have enough work either, that's not good either. That's hard. That like now your staff is like bored. You're not, you're losing dollars as an agency. It's just this, again, like I said, it's this over under of trying to find that sweet spot. We also use it though too of forecasting. Do we need to hire someone? So like if we're overutilizing an employee, where do we need to hire next, or kind of using that as a trigger for the next hire, or to start planning the next hire.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I feel like we talked about was also just employee sentiment. If one employee is like overworked and the other one is underworked, the overworked employee could feel pretty frustrated and like, I'm really breaking my back here and this person isn't doing anything. So it seems like there's also just a little bit of a morale and company culture opportunity there as well.
And we are, I wouldn't say constantly shifting responsibilities, but definitely like watching that, monitoring that. Okay, I need you to take X, so I'm going to move Z over to this person, but really kind of being able to look at how much time have you been putting into that particular service, and does this person now have the capacity to do that? So it's really kind of a lot of and not that we're doing that constantly, but it is a shuffle sometimes, especially with what we do. Clients come in, clients go out, contracts are 3 months, they're 12 months, they're 6 months, so there is kind of this like kind of ebb and flow with what we just naturally do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So forecasting new hires, I think that's kind of the next one here. So can you you sort of elaborated on it, that there are times when you can see what's happening and like, hey, maybe we need to hire in. How does having sort of the history of track time inside of Harvest help with some of that forecasting?
So what I do is I do about a yearly analysis of our data and literally really go in and see how much time does each service take on average. So we can, it's not a science and it's not exact, but we can forecast pretty closely of like one person's, what they can do, what they can take, and then like any incoming potential new clients, we can forecast how much time will that take. And it's like, you only get 160 hours a month. And so if an employee is over that based on our averages per service, it's time to start looking at another hire based on our sales pipeline.
Yeah, I think you average out the activities too under each service as well. I mean, which I find very valuable because it's, you're just kind of plugging in. It's just a big puzzle now. And we, weigh people's like strengths and weaknesses too. I mean, truly being honest with ourselves, like yeah, what are the deficits? What are the gaps? And it should be pretty clear from, with the analysis. And like everyone has to be using the tool correctly for this data to be useful, but the averages are truly important. And some data doesn't make sense for us to pull anymore past a certain point because we don't provide that service anymore. It was too costly, so the tool directly enables us to grow and make decisions that way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that kind of leads, great into the next sort of theme here, which is, building better contracts for future clients. I think this one is particularly interesting, Lacey, just how you've sort of framed it up.
It's again, using those averages of how long something takes and being able to put hard data to, like, if this is how long it's taken historically. And the example as used, our CEO and I have head-butted over how long for us a content calendar takes. And I was always like, it's about roughly 20 hours a month. And he's like, oh, there's no way it takes that long. And I'm like, between the back and forth with the client, creating the calendar, image pulls, writing copy, edits, revisions, more back and forth with the client, scheduling, and then doing engagement on top of that, I'm like, it's about 20 hours. And so it's like being able to pull this data and pull that average. I'm like, like here it is. And it is kind of hard to believe that a content calendar or a couple of pieces of posts take that long. But I mean, that's just, you can't really argue with like what's being logged and 4 years worth of data to pull from. So it's made us much better at forecasting future contracts, how long things actually take when we're writing new contracts. And we're always surprised, like when we started doing this several years ago, we were really surprised at the amount of admin time that it takes, the emails back and forth with clients, setting up clients, keeping documents, documenting everything. I'm a big proponent of documenting everything. So like making sure everything's documented properly. Just all this setup that goes into managing and project managing clients. We actually, that's a line item now. It wasn't a line item. It is now. So just really, really better forecasting those future clients and just helping write those contracts.
Yeah. There was something that in the memo that I thought was interesting under this as well, which is, as new and emerging marketing, techniques or technologies or platforms start to come out, you don't know how much time those are going to take because it's all new. So the importance of being able to start building that sort of database of, historicals is also really important as you're kind of establishing maybe a new, area of work that you will then, service clients in the future for.
Right. No, and I mean, the biggest example of that is like several years ago when like TikToks and Reels started coming out, and we were like, we have no idea how long that's going to take. But I mean, we took a shot in the dark and tried to forecast it. And, obviously it was a service offering and we were way off.
Now we have a benchmark,
So then, all right, we need to edit that a little bit. But then it allows us to make better decisions the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that it serves as a rubric for how we qualify good clients. It's also a rubric in how we qualify, I think, strong team members too. I mean, essentially having those averages, does dictate like what's a better fit. I mean, truly, it is not a good fit, and it's not even something we even entertain. Working directly with an owner, working directly with the founder. Our programs are heavy. It requires you to follow the instructions that we give you, and that means on-time approvals. I mean, we give you a lot of grace, of course, but having a team that can do some of the heavy lifting when in terms of providing access, providing quick approvals, and it's very clear when we're over on time. Where the culprit is the client. It's bad culture, poor planning, organization internally, and we're just not going to ask our team members to work outside of business hours over the weekend. We're not going to allow our team members to take phone calls, after hours, and that's scope creep protection. It's Lacey uses as a mechanism to just say, hey, this 80% has been reached. just be mindful of that next time. So it's just these easy comms that don't make it, apparent that we're going to charge you extra, but like, hey, this is just, it might become an issue in the future.
Yeah.
And even when we're over on hours, Lacey's still nice too. She's just, hey, we're going to do it this time, but just so you know, next month we're going to, we're going to be, adjusting your price.
Yeah.
So very diplomatic, but it's just nice to have that. It is really a nice layer of intelligence that, it's so much more useful to have than not to have, because you're just going to have to guess, unfortunately, if you don't have that layer.
Yeah. Well, you avoid having an opinion war, and you can just have a discussion based on facts, which is definitely in your favor.
I'll also say, because I come from that era where we were tracking our time in a spreadsheet, but it was typically at the end of the week. If you're doing it like post the time already being like, that's why it's just such it's an easy tool that you can stay clocked in throughout the day. If you were to do it like retroactively, you'll be hours off, like tremendously. I mean, like to try to remember what you did, and where you were, kind of thing. I mean, there's integrations now that I think make it easier to do that, but training people on how to use it correctly, very important for ensuring accurate data.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I think our 5th out of 6 threads here is, and Lacey, you kind of touched on this, but identifying clients that are being over or underserved.
Right. And I mean, I feel like in our company or just in our industry, we talk about clients being obviously overserved quite a bit. Are we going over hours? Now we're losing money. That's talked about a lot, but just as important as that is clients who are being underserviced. Everyone I feel like is a little guilty of this. Sometimes we had one a couple of years ago and we were looking at the data and I was like, oh my gosh, we are so far under where we should be on taking care of this client. And having that trigger and then having like it in your face and you think you're taking care of it, right? You're not meaning to underservice, a client or anything in particular, but you're just like, oh my gosh, yes, like we're not. So being able to adjust quickly and just, reallocating resources, also checking in with the team. Hey, why are we underservicing this? Is there something you don't understand? Did you not know this was like part of your responsibility? Like there's a lot of conversations that can happen. It doesn't mean it's automatically a bad thing, but it does definitely trigger conversations.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. Well, our last point in the memo is developing better processes and workflows, which I know this one's near and dear to you, Lacey.
It might be my favorite. And again, it goes back, like if we are, in the example I actually used in this memo was reporting. So several years ago, we were every monthly report, the team would just be like, reports, oh my God, it's monthly reporting time. It was like acquire every 30 days. And then, it's like I started diving into data and we were spending anywhere from 4 to 6 hours per month per report per client. And it was a lot. It was a huge lift. So being able to pull that data and just kind of being like, that seems a little like, it really got me asking questions like, does it need to take this much time? Are we spending too much time? Is there a better way to make us more efficient and effective to where we're not spending 5 hours a month per report per client? I mean, that adds up real fast. So being able to look at that data and then putting like a dollar amount to the number of hours we were putting towards how long it took us to pull these reports, I was able to forecast, okay, if we're spending X amount of hours and it equals $1,000, round numbers here, a month that we're spending just in labor, can I take that $1,000 and go buy a tool that will, it's literally just transferring it from here to here. So now I have a happier staff. No one's griping about monthly reports every month. And we're better utilizing our time, my employee time, so that they can go do something else that's not quite so tedious. And that's exactly what we did. I was able to, we got a better tool. Our reports are easier. We focus a lot more now on the analysis instead of crunching data, because that was the part that was like taking us so much time. And we just have a much better like reporting like process in general. But again, I have a much happier staff. The clients I feel like are better informed because we can really focus more on analysis, and we can work on other things for those particular clients instead of dumping so much time into reporting. So we went from like anywhere on average 4 to 6 hours to about an hour and a half now.
That's great. Yeah, and it sounds like you're leveraging the time tracking data to justify even just process changes and maybe investments in tools to help the operations of the agency run better.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So, I mean, for me, hearing these things, it seems like when we kind of bubble back up to the why for folks for your employees, and as they're kind of reading through the memo or learning about this, the whys seem like, why is it good for the business? Why is it good for our clients? And really, why is it good for the individual team member? There are benefits for them as well in terms of like managing workload, ensuring that their life is not, after hours calls or extensive hours. So it seems like those are sort of the macro themes that are coming through here.
Yes. And like obviously how it's good for the business. I mean, we've kind of touched on that a lot, but it just kind of goes back to profitability. Where's our time going? Are we scoping properly? And obviously, like at the end of the day, if you're not a profitable business, you won't be in business. So I mean, like that's pretty important.
Yeah.
And then for the clients, it's, are we hitting all those services for the client? Are we properly like, did one get forgotten 1 month or something? And like that particular service hours are way under, and we're like, whoa, what happened here? Little course correction. Are we spending too much time on them too? That's really not good for the client, but like really that kind of underutilization. And then for the team member, it truly has allowed the team to see where their time is going. How long something takes. Again, sometimes, I feel like that's just kind of human nature. We underestimate how long something might actually take, but now they actually know, oh, hey, that's going to take me so and so many hours. And it really allows them to plan out their weeks better. And since we've kind of gone from that, so like we do a lot of time blocking, but the time tracking allows us to time block more accurately, which then again, we're not having as many after hours calls. We're not having to work on the weekends as much. Obviously some of the big campaign will come up every now and then, right? Like
Sure.
We are still in marketing. But we can really kind of forecast and plan that so much better now.
Yeah, that's great. So I was kind of like, now that we've talked about sort of the case that you've made for, for time tracking through this memo, just talk to us a little bit about the responses that you get from your team, and how do they sort of react to it, and how does this affect their adoption?
I think, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit the other day, I think it takes about a month to get like truly adoption where it really starts to become seamless. It starts to become like second nature. The day we have a new employee start, part of their orientation is harvest training and time tracking training, and really talk about it. We go through this internal memo. I answer any questions that they may have, or the like, why is this important? And really try and go back to that why. Honestly, since we've been doing that, we really don't have a lot of pushback on it. People they want to, be a part of, like it's just part of our culture as well. So people want to be a part of that. They want to, participate and provide us that information. The biggest thing though, too, is like we had one employee and he was just like, I now know where my time is going, or like, if I'm spinning my wheels, I know where I'm spinning my wheels, or where I need to get better with something. And for him, it was really the first time that he had been able to really again, kind of plan and set up his days better, and put some guardrails on himself, even of like, oh, hey, I don't have to work 12 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really kind of cool to see that, to see him grow in that nature. Harrison, I know you had some.
Well, I mean, I do think everyone works differently, and some people just sort of get it immediately, and they're the ones that journal and they go to bed and they eat, they eat right. The creatives, and a lot of people just kind of fall into like, they work in this gray area. They want to be artistic and creative. Like finding that discipline is difficult. So I would say, it would definitely a month with those creative types and those who just don't see the benefit for themselves yet. But I love seeing, harvest is like a catalyst to better managing yourself and better managing your time, and the transition and evolution, with an individual such as a creative that, hey, like I can see opportunities to be better. And it, it typically evolves into, better time blocking, and also like blocking out time where you're inaccessible. Even during work hours, I like it when people tell me not to schedule them on things, or that they're unavailable because they're spending their most precious time working on the meaningful work. And you'll hear this from Tim Ferriss and a lot of other big proponents on like better managing yourself, working smarter, how to prioritize. It doesn't come easy to everyone, especially like the creatives. I fall into this category too, by the way. But to truly like be able to like prioritize your time, and I know where that time is. It's in the mornings. It's the morning time. Like honestly, I do my best work in the morning. In the afternoons, where I like to have my meetings, my catch ups, and to do easier tasks. But I need my on time to be the morning, and I'm more protective of that with most people. But that's just, it's almost like journaling now, where it's so second nature, and Harvest is so easy to integrate with teams, that I like to have I like to chronicle my how I spend my days, because I like to know how when I've been my best. So it's nice to be able to reflect on that. And I'm well over 12,000 hours tracked now in Harvest. Wow. And I get, and I like to see our team continue to trend that way, and to honestly like see our full-time staff spend a lot less time on billable work, to be honest. Like I like to see our team, our leadership team, our management team, to spend more time on the business. So if we can get our job done and do it really well for our clients, like we have to focus on growth and looking at new opportunities. It's about like taking your time back and just not being so reactive to things, because you'll be surprised like how much your days controlled by just daunting administrative stuff. Like I hate email, I hate meetings mostly. But you take the meetings that matter. But you want to protect your time, and this gives people the way to do it. So I mean that's really the motivator for most people, and when I've seen the transition.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, so we're coming close on time, so maybe just last question before we take a few questions from the audience. But any advice, just quickly, you would give to companies that are maybe struggling with this or trying to figure out how to get time tracking just consistently adopted within their companies?
I mean, for me, it's just communication, it's training, it's really going into the why, but also the how. I do have a whole other document of like how to time track, what different tasks fall under which Harvest task, that I go over with employees. And they ask me, like, I also am very open to like, if you have a question or something needs to be, just send me a Slack message. I'll tell you where to log it. It's fine. You're still learning. Like, I don't expect you to get it right off the bat. So, I mean, that's really kind of for me. I feel like Harrison obviously uses it a little different. So,
Well, I mean, in terms of like, tips, I mean, for sure, have a plan, understand what you're striving to accomplish. Not all teams are like ours. I would say anyone who's like on this call right now, like they're doing their due diligence. That's step one. Do your due diligence, see how the tool can be useful. I think confidently, like regardless, if you're a service firm or not, there's going to be this layer that you will wish you had at some point in your journey. But put the time in, set like put a system together, some guidelines, really easy guidelines, make it so easy to implement, because it truly is second nature for all of our team members. I mean, everybody's using it the same way, and it's like you can see that it's actually proving to be very valuable now. But yeah, put the time in, do the due diligence, and don't overthink it. Like just keep it simple, stupid. Just really don't overthink it. Like it really does. I think I saw a tremendous change once Lacey's like, well, why do we have these activities even in here? We used to like allow our team members to log in, like to track time in every project for a slew of activities, which is like, well, it should follow the scope of work. If it's not in the scope of work, it shouldn't be in here. So now team members know clearly where the scope is immediately. And they also don't set precedents with our clients too. Like we don't want our team members, of course, they want to say, oh yeah, I can do this for you. We all want to do that. But if you can't log into it, or you can't track time there, It's not in scope, so we have to, be thoughtful there. Don't set precedents with clients, as much as you want to.
Yeah.
But like, again, going back to kind of protecting your time, put the time in, and just like any discipline in running a profitable, productive business, you're going to get out what you put in.
Yeah.
And I'd say time track is the same.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we have a few minutes left, maybe time for a couple of questions. So I'm going to invite Shelby to jump back on. And Shelby, any questions that we have from the audience?
Yes, we have a few. First one, do you have any tips for helping team members use time tracking to make better decisions for their individual time?
I think for us, it's been obviously time tracking, knowing how long things take, but then coupling that with time blocking. Then that allows people to make better decisions on their own time. Harvest actually has a great integration with Google. So like you can time track based on your Google Calendar. So the fact that we time block, it literally connects directly to your Harvest, and it will do it for you. Basically, you just literally accept it. And I think that really allows people to set better boundaries around, their own time.
Okay, next question. Do you have any tips or tricks for helping people remember to start and stop the timers?
I mean, the course correction has to be there. I mean, like
right.
it will be painful for some people. But I think a thoughtful way of course correction is it just kind of comes with the territory. And that could be for any internal tool or software. You just, softly course correct. And we used to be like pretty like every week we would review the hours that were submitted either by contractors or full-time, and we just kind of ensure, just make sure like, hey, this makes sense. It aligns with scope, because it's very easy for team members to just not know where that range should be. So just thoughtful course corrections, and eventually it will be second nature. I also love the mobile app too. The mobile app is very easy, so it's great for teams on the go. Great for teams who travel, have events, trade shows, things that they need to obviously track. I mean, I like to track everything now, but even like team events, I want to know of all the hours we have that are dedicated to Social Revolt, like how are we spending those collectively as a team? And for me, at the highest level, it's really nice to see that we're spending a lot more time on the business now. So yeah, that's how I answer that.
All right. I think just out of respect for time, I think we're kind of right at the limit here. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get to all of those questions, but thank you to everyone who submitted there. And as we wrap up, I just want to say huge thank you to Harrison, Lacey. Thank you. We know it's precious time out of your day, but we really appreciate you taking it to share this with all of us. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. And thank you to everyone who joins.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, thank you, everybody. I hope it was insightful and helpful.
And I do want to share for everybody on the call that we'll send out an email early next week where we'll share a link to a blog post that will have a recording of this webinar, but we're also going to provide a kind of a summary of the memo that Lacey and Harrison talked us through. So if that's something that you're kind of interested in seeing, we'll have that up on our blog. And lastly, I'll just give another plug. If you have an idea for a topic for a customer Q&A like this, please send an email to us. Just send it to marketing@getharvest.com and we'll get in touch. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.